Hi, my name is Ken. Welcome to Sheet Metal is Fun. Today we're going to make a pan. That doesn't sound like a lot, but the pan is a very important building block to a lot of the projects we're going to make in the future. Come on inside. Let's have a good time. Sheet metal can fly. Sheet metal is fast. And last, but definitely not least, sheet metal is fun. Look at that spark plug butterfly. Come on, that's a keeper. All right, we said we were gonna make a pan. Let's make a pan. Let's say you had a handful of stuff and you were tired of it getting all over the place. And you wanted to have some way to keep your stuff from just ending up on the floor. Let's say this was your stuff. Man, it's like herding cats. You know what would fix this? You guessed it, a pan. Let's make a pan. First of all, we're going to decide what size our pan needs to be. So we're going to draw a square around our stuff. That's going to show us what size pan we need. Then we're going to move our stuff and we're going to start working on the pan. Come on in a little closer. I want you to see everything we're going to make over here. Oh yeah. So I drew this square on here that would decide what size we're going to make our pan. So we're going to start, this is just going to be a visual aid. This is not our pan, but this is going to help us understand the pan. Our pan is going to be this size, and it's going to be that deep. So I've made a little visual aid here. This is going to start your understanding of how to make a pan. Part of making anything in sheet metal, really, since we have folding and bending and welding, one of the main things you're going to notice in sheet metal is you have to have the ability to visualize your finished product. So this is a visual aid. I wanted you to see a pan is made up of a base and 4 sides. But that's kind of bothersome. That's a lot of beating around the bush right there, and that's not going to get us where we want to go. But I wanted to give you a visual aid of what a pan looks like. A pan is a base and 4 sides. All right, we're done with that. Now that we have this, let's come over here to our notepad and make a drawing of what a pan would look like. So we've drawn the base. Here's one of our sides. Here's another side. This base came out to be 5 1/8 inch by 5 1/8 inch. And we're going to make it 1 inch deep. That's going to give us a cut size of 5 plus 1 plus 1, 7 1/8 inches square. Let's go over here to the shear and cut a piece 7 1/8 square. We've got a piece. This is a good piece to start with right here. This is the Stomp shear. They call it the Stomp shear because in order to operate it, you stomp on it. So yes, it's the Stomp shear. No, not Choppy McChopperson. At least not here. All right, we decided our size was 7 1/8. We're gonna make sure we're clear of everything. Our fingers are not in a dangerous place. There's 7 1/8. 7 1/8. There we go, 7 1/8 square. All right, let's come over here. And we've already decided our pan is gonna be 1 inch deep. So we're gonna draw around the perimeter, well, we're gonna scribe a 1 inch deep mark on all 4 sides. I don't know if you can see those scribe lines. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna notch the corners out. There's something you gotta know about notching. If you're notching and you can see the piece can get in your eye. So if I wanted to cut this corner off, see this little piece right here? Whenever I notch, if I can see it, it can move toward my eye. So if I wanted to notch that piece off, what I want to do is turn it around. Look at these snips. Can you see the snips? Now whenever I notch, I cover the piece that's going to come off, and that's going to go toward the floor. So just keep in mind, if you can see it, if I can see that piece right there, then it can get to my eye. So always make sure whenever you're notching, you cover the piece that you're cutting off. So with that in mind, let's cut these 4 corners out. We're going to use our yellow snips. Yellow snips are for straight cutting. And you always put your snips at the end of the cut. I wouldn't try to hold my snips this way and stop myself when I got to the end. And just like we showed earlier, I'm going to cover the piece that's coming out. My drop, I'm covering that with my snips so that whenever I cut it, it goes down. So we're going to do it. This is the right way to do it. The drop off is covered by the snip. See how it goes down? Let's do one wrong just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm covering it with my first cut, which means my second cut. Now I'm looking at the piece. If I can see it, whenever I finish the notch, it could come up and hit me. So we don't want to do that. We did that wrong just as a visual aid. So we're going to cut this one first. Always place your snips. The end of your snip is the end of your cut when notching. There you go. So we marked 1 inch allowance on all 4 sides. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bend it. Since it's fresh in your mind right now, the pan, the bending allowance, I want you to go ahead and mark this because it's never going to be fresher in your mind than it is right now. So we're going to mark this. That the bender, the fabricator, is always X. In case I get a phone call after I've notched it and marked it, now whenever I come back after the phone call, I know what I'm going to do whenever I come back. The X is always U, so this needs to be 90-degree bend up toward you. Let's walk over here and bend it. Let's come over here. This machine is called the box and pan brake. This is how you spell brake, not break like break glass. This is a box and pan brake. There are regional differences. In some parts of the country, they may refer to this as a finger brake because these are the fingers. I want to give you the right name for these tools rather than teach you the wrong name right off the bat. Then you go somewhere and you call something the wrong name. So This is a box and pan brake or a finger brake, but it's not the Finger Smasher 5000, even though it does a whopper of a job smashing fingers. Come on in, I want you to get a close-up. This finger is 5 inches wide. And we are going to clamp our metal into the brake. I'm going to put the line right across the front of the finger. This is called the nose bar. Here we go. Now we're going to bend. Look at that. Up 90. We're going to put it back into the next mark, nice and close. The way I'm holding the piece, I'm holding this with my fingers, and I'm using these fingers on the back side to stop against the front. And that's how I do my fine tuning back and forth to make sure I land on the line. Here we go. Let's do it again. Bend number 3. Clamp it on the line. This is the handle that you use to clamp the metal into the brake. This is the bending. This is the bending leaf. Leaf like what comes on a tree. All right, here's our last one. I want you to come in nice and close. When a pan is small like this, we can do it inside the brake. If it was bigger, we would have to do it out front. There you go. Look at that, a pan. I made a small bend right here that I didn't want. Come on in a little closer. I made a small bend here I didn't want. We're going to take that back out. These are called hand seamers or tongs. Again, some of these things are regional. I'm just going to fine tune our pan here. All right, let's see if everything fits in the pan. I got a good feeling about this. Look at that, a pan. All right, so now that you've seen the pan, we're going to take the pan one step further. If you look at this pan, I want you to see really close. The corners are open and the top edge is sharp. Now, we can't impress our friends and neighbors with that. Open corners, sharp edges. So now we've gone from our visual aid to a pan, but this pan has open corners and sharp edges. Now, let's take this to the next level. Come on and take a look at our drawing. Here's our drawing of open corners and a raw edge, sharp edge. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a hem, and that's a hem just like a seamstress would put on a dress. That's going to add a hem, and we're going to add another hem here. We're going to add a hem to all 4 of these. I like drawing these out on paper it shows me where if there's anything that we don't like or anything we would like to improve on. And then we're gonna add, look at this little magic doodad. Get close on that. I want you to make sure you can see what we're doing here. These little tabs are going to close the corners. Where we have an open corner here, these tabs are going to seal that corner up, and you're going to love it. So now, our cut size before was 7 1/8 square. We just added a 1/2 inch hem and a 1/2 inch hem, which adds how much to our cut size? Yep, that's right, 8 1/8. It added 1 inch. So now, let's go back to the stomp shear and cut a piece 8 1/8. Let's take our cut size with us. Gotta get my glasses. All right, 8 1/8. Here we go. 8 1/8. Make sure your fingers are clear. Eight and 1/8. We're going to go over the tape measure on our next lesson. But for today, I want you to feel the accomplishment of making a pan. Next lesson, we'll work on the accomplishment of learning the tape measure. So now we had a 1 inch allowance to make our pan. Now we're making pan deluxe. All right, we're gonna set this. We were at 1, but we've added a 1/2 inch hem. So let's add that 1/2 inch to our scribe. And then let's add that 1/2 inch hem. This is a really sweet tool. I like that. That's what a professional uses. But you can also make your own scribe. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. We'll go over that later too. All right, so now we have 1 1/2 inches and a 1/2. Let's mark our piece. Here we go. There's our 1/2. There's our 1 1/2 inches. There's our 1 1/2 inches. And our 1/2. 1/2. 1 1/2 inches. 1 1/2 inches. 1/2. Now, for what we're doing, we don't require the precision of a precision tab. So what we're going to do, we're going to do it just like the drawing. We're going to start, and we are going to make this cut right here. Like that. Then we're going to make this one straight in all the way to the corner. And then we're going to bend that one out of our way. Then we're going to cut this one right here, and we're going to hold on to this piece so we don't have to find it in the floor later on in the trash. Now we're going to do this notch. And remember, cover the piece that's going to come off. Cover it with your snip. So when it comes off, it goes down. Now, we're going to cut this one. I like to cut this not all the way through. See how we're leaving something in there? The reason we're leaving it in there is then we don't have to, see I'm reaching underneath to grab it. Now, I don't have to look for this laying on the floor. That's why we left this connected. Make sure you're always covering the piece with the snip. That way when you get done, it's going to go down. All right, here we go. Leave a little on there, leave it connected, and then, see, we wouldn't want a bunch of these laying around on the floor. On this last one, I'll cut it incorrectly, and that way you can see the difference between that little tiny sharp point ending up on something with a handle. All right, so we're going to cut this one all the way in. Then we're going to cut this all the way off. Now, I'm showing you here the difference. Ordinarily, we leave a little connection here, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do it wrong this time. Now, when we cut this, that little piece falls on the floor, and now we got to come back and find it and get it in the trash. If I would have left it connected, I didn't have to bend over and find it on the floor. Let's finish up this notch. All right. Let's compare that to our drawing. Here's our hem. Like I said earlier, once you've done the thinking about what your project is, go ahead and mark it. Then if something happens, lunch break, coffee break, you get a phone call, then whenever you come back, you're right back into the project. So here's what we're going to do. Last time we marked the 90-degree bend. This time we're going to go ahead and make ourselves a visual aid of that hem. Again, we are always X. So that means this bend is coming up toward us, and so is this hem. Sometimes we'll get in a hurry in the shop when we're making these drawings for ourselves, these visual aids. And it might just look like, that. But I know what this means. But let's not do that. Let's not get fast and lazy today. Let's figure out, let's always make a drawing that if we come back in an hour, we know what it says. Can you see that? We're going to bend this one on the 10-foot handbrake. The first thing we always do to a project is you always do the part that affects the project in the least amount. What will affect this project in the least amount is to bend these hems first. This is the 10-foot leaf brake. This is the leaf, and this brake is 10 foot long. We can call it the 10-foot leaf brake, or you can just call it the 10-foot brake. Notice the spelling, brake. This is not the big ouch, although it can be. So again, I'm going to line this up on that mark. I'm going to clamp our project in the brake, and we're going to push the bending leaf around until it stops. See what we've done there? So now what we're going to do, smash it down. So now we got rid of that sharp edge. Look what a nice finish that is. That was one side. We got 3 more to go. The pan is a very humble project, but it's also a great building block for some of the things we're going to do later. I want us to start with a pan because I want you to have an understanding of one of the basic building blocks in sheet metal. Now, we've bent all 4 of our hems. All 4 are up, so we've built 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 are up. Now, the next bend we're going to make is this one because it has the 2 tabs on it. I want you to come in nice and close. We're going to bend this right here. We're bending this one because it has the tabs on it. Those are the tabs that's going to close the corners up for us. We bend that up 90. Now we're going to bend the other one. Bend that up 90. So we've bent up 2 sides, and when we bent the sides, the tabs came up with the sides. Let's go back over to the bench. All right, so for this project, we want these tabs to go to the inside of the pan. So what we're going to do, set the project over your workbench and just take your screwdriver and just twist it. And that shows the tab that we want the tab to go to the inside of the pan. Let's do that again. I'm pushing down toward the bench and I'm giving it a little twist. You notice the bench? This is the right way to do it. So what happens if my screwdriver comes out? I hit the bench. Can you tell me what's wrong with this picture? If my screwdriver comes out, what does it hit? It hits me. I don't like that. So always make sure that even if you're holding it here, if your screwdriver comes out, your hand could slide down, and then you would be in a spot where you want to know where the Band-Aids are kept. We don't want to do that. Always make sure you put yourself in a position of safety. So if my screwdriver slips, all it does makes a mark on the plywood. So what I've done here is I've just pre-convinced the tab that I want it to go inside the pan. All 4 of these tabs inside. All right. Yeah, this is looking great. I want you to get one more look, and I'll bring it over here. I want this tab to actually go inside the hem. When we bend it up, I want this tab to go inside the hem. But the hem is clamped, it's flattened very flat, and the tab is not going to go into the hem. So what we're going to do is, just like when we talked earlier, I don't want to see somebody over here trying to pry this hem open and getting your hand in a dangerous place. We want to try to go all day long without leaking any blood on our project. That stuff's not good. We don't want to do that. So one of the things I want to do, instead of putting my hand here and trying to push and having the opportunity for my screwdriver to make a new scar, we don't want to do that. So we're going to always put ourselves in a position where we can mitigate the possibility of damage. So at least look where my hand is. Look how far away I am. And so I'm not pushing hard. I'm just lightly prying. Can you see where we're at here? Did you see how I pried that up? do it again. Your hand is in a safe place. I have to use the razor knife because this hem is clamped so tight. It's clamped so tight, the screwdriver isn't going to get in there and do what we want to do. Again, notice where my hands are. My hands are in a safe place, and I'm not pushing, and I'm not using my razor knife for a prying tool. All right. Let's close that back up and put it away. Back over to the box and pan. So we're going to clamp this right on our line. And as we bend the pan up, I want to make sure that we don't interfere. So we're going to go nice and slow. As a matter of fact, let me grab that screw. Here we go. Come up nice and slow. Make sure the tab goes behind the hem. Okay, we're looking good. I'm just making sure that the tab goes behind the hem. Now, right here we have interference. See what's happening here? I need to increase the angle of the notch on our tab. Let's come over here and do that. Again, remember, cover the part that's going to come off. And we had to do that one, so we know we're going to have to do this one. And then we can flip with the same pair of snips. We can come over here, and also we're covering that small piece. So we're covering it so that whenever it's cut off, it goes to the ground. If I try to cut from this side, I have a really sharp sliver that could work its way toward my face. We don't want to do that. So there we go. We just gave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room there. Now, we're going to finish this bend. Our tabs are going to go inside of our hems. When the bending leaf is flat like a table, that's roughly at 90 degrees. Clamp on our line again. I'm watching, I'm bending very slowly to make sure the tab goes behind the hem. All right, look at that. Now, we're going to just sweeten the pie here a little bit. Again, small strikes with a light hammer. So now we have I'm just striking those hems down a little bit. So now look at the outside finish of this pan. We have a nice bent edge. We have a nice hemmed edge. And the corners are closed. If you can see that corner, look at that. So what we can do, if we feel that's necessary, we can add a pop rivet to these corners. But for what we're making today, we don't need the pop rivet. So let's, I want you to come over here. So now that we've learned how to make a simple pan, I want you to come over. Look at this awesome work table. Do you recognize what this is on the top? It's a pan. This work table is nothing more than a pan with legs. Here's a nice pan that we use to clean parts on, and we sort nuts and bolts. Pan with a hemmed edge on it. Here's a pan I keep nuts and bolts in. $40 ago, I made these nut and bolt containers. You can see them in a row down here. 40 years old. It's nothing more than just a pan. It's a pan with high sides and a low front and a handle in the front. Look at that. That's what all these pans are. I put the tab to the outside, hemmed the top, tab to the outside, and riveted them. So you can make a nut and bolt bin, and it's just a pan. I think that's a good place to stop right there. If you guys have any questions, man, I'd love to answer your questions, because answering questions makes me feel smart and smug. Those are two of my favorite feelings. Thanks for stopping by today and making a pan with me. This is Ken the Sheet Metal Dude. See you on the next one.